Royal families have always been associated with strict traditions and unbreakable rules. Yet, from time to time, figures emerge who face unexpected challenges that put them in direct confrontation with societal and media expectations. One such figure is Princess Olga, who transformed from a devoted wife into a legend of vengeance and ruthlessness. Her life was far from peaceful, as she endured the brutal murder of her husband, which drove her to carry out one of the bloodiest revenge plans in history. In this video, we will take you on a thrilling journey through the extraordinary story of Princess Olga, a tale that blends love, patience, and breaking free from constraints. So stay with us until the end, and don't forget to support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel to receive all our latest content. In the 10th century, the Principality of Kiev emerged as one of the greatest political entities in Eastern Europe, serving as a vital hub of trade and military power in the region. Within this context, Princess Olga played a pivotal role as the wife of Prince Igor, a strong ruler determined to expand his influence and strengthen Kiev's dominance over neighboring tribes. His policy was built on enforcing supremacy through power, compelling surrounding tribes to pay tribute in exchange for the protection of his army. Among these tribes, the Drevlians stood out as one of the most influential groups in the region. They were a warrior people with an independent spirit, known for their continuous resistance to Kiev's authority. Although they agreed to pay tribute to Igor for a period of time, tensions between the two sides never truly subsided. The Drevlians resented being subordinate to Kiev and sought opportunities to break free from its domination, exploiting any moment of weakness to achieve their goal. Prince Igor was a ruler of strict character, intolerant of any form of rebellion or defiance. Yet, he failed to fully grasp the depth of the hostility the Drevlians harbored toward him. For them, the tribute was a heavy burden, and they were waiting for the right moment to rid themselves of Kiev's control, once and for all. When Igor decided to increase the tribute, it became the spark that ignited a confrontation between the two sides, leading to bloody events that changed the course of history. By the year 945 AD, Igor had decided to take a decisive step to reinforce his authority over the Drevlians. He was no longer satisfied with demanding the usual tribute. Instead, he resolved to double it, in an attempt to impose greater dominance and force them into complete submission. Yet, this move backfired, as the Drevlians saw it as a direct insult and an outrageous exploitation of their resources, which drove them to make a bold decision to end the ruler's life himself. When Igor arrived in Drevlian's territory to demand the tribute, he had no idea he was walking into a deadly trap. At first, the Drevlians did not openly defy him. Instead, they pretended to comply, carefully concealing their true intentions until he was fully within their grasp. Once he was in their hands, they carried out a brutal execution, meant to serve as a warning to anyone who might try to impose control over them. This incident marked a major turning point in the history of Kiev, not only because it ended Igor's rule, but because it ignited a chain of bloody events that would forever change the fate of the Drevlians. For Princess Olga, who received the news of her husband's murder, was no ordinary woman. She would not allow such a crime to pass unpunished. Instead, she was already preparing for a revenge, unlike anything history had ever witnessed. After the murder of Prince Igor, Princess Olga found herself facing a double challenge: preserving the throne for her young son, Sviatoslav, and avenging her husband in a way that would leave no doubt about her strength and determination. At that time, Kiev was in need of firm leadership, and Olga was unwilling to appear weak, whether before her enemies or even her allies. She understood that simply waging an open war against the Drevlians would not be enough. She wanted her vengeance to become an eternal lesson in history. Amid this tense atmosphere, the Drevlian prince, Mal, sent a delegation to Kiev with a marriage proposal. He believed that Olga, now a widow, would see no better option than accepting such an alliance, which could solidify Drevlian influence and put an end to any potential conflict with Kiev. Yet, with her sharp mind and political cunning, Olga saw in this proposal nothing more than a golden opportunity to begin executing her revenge, carefully planned so that the Drevlians would pay a heavy price. With deceptive calm, Olga agreed to receive the delegation and pretended to show willingness to discuss the proposal. But behind the scenes, she was putting the final touches on her bloody plan. Her goal was not merely to kill those envoys sent by Mal, but to extend her vengeance to every member of the Drevlian tribe, ensuring that none would escape punishment. And thus began one of the most ruthless campaigns of revenge in history. Olga's first step in her revenge was a clear message to the Drevlians that their days were numbered. When the first delegation from the Drevlians arrived in Kiev, Olga ordered them to remain in their boats until the following morning, claiming that an official reception required special arrangements. While they waited, her forces were secretly digging a massive pit in the palace courtyard. At dawn, the envoys were summoned to the palace, only to be ambushed by Olga's men, who carried the boats with the envoys still inside and threw them into the deep pit, burying them alive under heaps of earth, condemning them to a slow and horrific death. But Olga did not stop there. She wanted to lure more Drevlian leaders into her deadly trap. She sent a message to Prince Mal, requesting that he send a more distinguished delegation, claiming she had not been satisfied with the level of representation in the first group, and that she wished to discuss the marriage proposal with the tribe's leaders directly. Suspecting nothing, Prince Mal dispatched a group of Drevlian nobles and high-ranking officials. Upon their arrival in Kiev, they were warmly received and told that Olga wished for them to rest before the formal meeting. They were invited to bathe in the royal baths, promised the luxury of hot water and refreshing steam. Yet, as soon as they entered, the doors were locked tight, and soldiers set the entire structure ablaze, burning everyone inside alive with no chance of escape. It was a horrific act of vengeance the Drevlians never expected, but it was only the beginning. In the next stage of her plan, Olga expanded her revenge to strike at a far greater number of the tribe. She sent another message to Prince Mal, requesting that he dispatch a military force of 5,000 warriors to attend Prince Igor's funeral, claiming she wished to honor his memory with grand rites. The real purpose, however, was to deceive the Drevlians into sending their army deep into Kiev, where they would be at the mercy of her sword. When the soldiers arrived, Olga welcomed them with exaggerated hospitality, hosting a lavish banquet of the finest foods and wines. The warriors drank heavily until they were completely intoxicated. At that moment, Olga gave the order for them all to be slaughtered. Helpless and defenseless, they were butchered in their drunken stupor, a blood-soaked massacre that delivered a fatal blow to the strength of the Drevlians. After annihilating the Drevlian leaders and crippling their armies through a series of bloody traps, Olga's vengeance was still not complete. She knew that the tribe still existed, and that the city where its survivors had fortified themselves remained standing. Unwilling to leave any trace that could one day restore the Drevlian strength, she resolved to deliver the final blow, one that would erase their presence from the map entirely. Olga surrounded the city with her full forces, imposing a suffocating siege that made it impossible for the inhabitants to escape or summon help. For many days, the townspeople suffered from hunger and fear, fully aware that there was no escape from the grim fate awaiting them. Then, to their surprise, Olga sent a message to the city's leaders, offering peace on a condition that seemed simple. Each household was to present 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows as a symbolic gift for her and her soldiers. The townspeople rejoiced at this strange request, believing it to be a trivial price for peace compared to the heavy losses they had already endured. They convinced themselves that Olga had grown weary of bloodshed and was now seeking a settlement that would ensure peace for both sides. Unaware that they had fallen into her final trap, they hurried to gather the birds and send them to the besieging army, hoping at last to end the nightmare that had turned their city into a giant prison. But Olga had no intention of granting them life. She ordered her soldiers to carry out her infernal plan. Pieces of cloth soaked in oil were tied to the birds' legs, then set ablaze before the creatures were released into the sky. Instinctively, the pigeons and sparrows flew back to their nests atop rooftops and towers. Within moments, the entire city was engulfed in flames as fire spread through every corner, devouring the wooden houses, while the inhabitants found themselves trapped by the raging inferno. In the midst of chaos and terror, the townspeople tried to flee, but the Kievan army was waiting at the gates, armed and ready to slaughter anyone escaping the fire. Some were cut down by the sword, while others were captured and enslaved to serve Olga and her warriors. The city itself was surrendered to complete ruin. After the horrific massacre carried out by Olga against the Drevlians, the echoes of her actions spread across Eastern Europe, sparking wide controversy among historians and political figures of the time. The world was already drowning in bloody conflicts, yet even within such a climate, Olga's vengeance surpassed imagination and went far beyond what was customary in wars and tribal disputes. On one hand, the people of Kiev saw her as a powerful leader who protected the honor of the throne and avenged her late husband with unmatched cunning and brilliance. To them, her actions were not merely acts of revenge, but a preemptive strike to ensure that no other tribe would dare rebel against her rule. Her followers regarded her as an iron woman who, in record time, subdued her fiercest enemies, thereby reinforcing the stability of the Kievan principality and cementing its power against external threats. On the other hand, there were those who believed her deeds went beyond justice, descending into an unrestrained brutality that could not be justified, even in an age where cruelty and bloodshed were part of politics. To her critics, Olga's plan seemed to belong to another world of vengeance, one that offered no chance of survival. The near-total annihilation she inflicted upon the Drevlians was seen as excessive, for she did not stop at punishing the conspirators behind her husband's murder, but went on to burn their city to the ground. Neighboring tribes looked upon the incident with astonishment, mixed with fear. They quickly realized that dealings with Olga would not be like those with previous rulers. This realization drove many tribes to hasten in offering her loyalty and obedience, fearing they might share the same fate as the Drevlians. Thus, Olga became a controversial figure, celebrated by some as a great heroine, condemned by others as a bloodthirsty tyrant. But whether loved or hated, one fact was beyond dispute. Olga carved for herself an unshakable place in history, and her vengeance against the Drevlians would remain etched in time as one of the bloodiest acts of retribution of the Middle Ages. Although the story of Princess Olga's vengeance is well known, many rumors and secrets surrounded her life. Some historical accounts suggest that Olga was not merely a widow seeking to avenge her husband, but rather an ambitious figure striving to consolidate her power. There were whispers that she exploited her husband's death as a pretext to expand her influence and dominate neighboring tribes. Speculations also arose that Olga had been planning to strengthen her authority even before her husband's murder. Some historians believe she was searching for an opportunity to prove herself as a powerful ruler, and Igor's death became the golden chance she needed. According to these claims, her vengeance was less about personal grief and more a calculated strategy to terrify other tribes and force them into submission. There were also rumors surrounding Olga's personal life after her husband's death. Some sources suggest she lived a secretive existence filled with intrigues and political alliances. It was even speculated that she was involved with certain military leaders and political figures, which made it easier for her to execute her plans of retribution. In addition, many secrets are said to have lurked behind the closed doors of Olga's palace. Some accounts claim she held secret meetings with her advisors to plan her next steps, and there were even rumors that she used magic and sorcery as tools to intimidate her enemies, an image that made her appear mysterious and fearsome in the eyes of many. After Igor's death, Olga became regent for her young son Sviatoslav. Rumors circulated that she exercised complete control over him, which later influenced both his personality and his rule. Some historians speculate that she intended to use her son as a tool to achieve her political ambitions, creating a complex and tense relationship between them. There were even rumors about Olga's own end. Some accounts suggest she did not die a natural death, but was assassinated by enemies who feared her power and cunning. Other speculation claims that the horrific events she had endured left her suffering from psychological ailments, which affected her mental health in her final years. In the end, the story of Princess Olga remains one of the most controversial tales in history. Despite her loyalty to her husband, her bloody vengeance made her a figure difficult to categorize, somewhere between heroism and brutality. Her burning of the Drevlians stands as an eternal symbol of vengeance and cruelty, forever etched in the memory of history. And with that, we come to the end of today's video. Don't miss the chance to follow all our upcoming content by subscribing to the channel and activating the notification bell so you never miss what's new.